All right, good evening. Today is Tuesday, August 25th, 2020. We're going to start with Smart Schools Bond Act Investment Plan Phase 2 hearing. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Steve Jensen.
Yeah, this is just the public hearing for the Smart Schools Bond that we presented. I think it was in July. It was approximately $192,000. It's from the Smart Schools Bond initiative that was done several years ago. The category that we're asking for is classroom technology, which basically is replacing most of our smart boards because that technology is beginning to age out on us. And so really it's pretty simple and straightforward process. We had the proposal posted on the website for the required 30 days. Had not received any response as far as public comment was concerned at this point. And so basically it's a question of taking any questions that you might have or that you might have received in that 30-day period and address as best I can, and we can go from there.
And the motion is item 6.15, if you want to see the motion. That is late, near the end of the agenda, but I did offer to Steve if we had questions for him. This is the culmination of after the more than 30-day waiting period from it being posted. He did present at the June 10th meeting.
June 10th, yeah. Okay.
Anyone have any questions?
Okay, thank you. I appreciate it. And if you could vote on that in a positive way, then I can submit that to the state and get that process started. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, I'm going to close the hearing at this time, and we're going to move to our regular meeting of Board of Education. Can I have a motion to approve the minutes of the July 21st, 2020 regular meeting?
So moved.
Any changes or corrections?
I think I had one. The second page, item 6, says motion by Jensen.
Second page.
Just a typo. 6.1, motion by Jensen. Should be.
Yep. Jenkins. Okay, any other corrections? Okay, all those in favor of the minutes as amended? Passes. And motion to approve the minutes of July 23rd, 2020 special meeting board goals work session.
So moved.
Second. Any changes or corrections? All those in favor? Passes. Next we have report of the superintendent.
Okay. I'm going to try to be as concise, but there is a lot to report. Since the last meeting, there have actually been 2 additional community town halls. There have also been interactive sessions with faculty members. I divided that up, separating the CLS faculty for one session, and then the middle school and high school faculty for a second session. I have a third employee engagement tomorrow morning with all of the non-instructional staff. And what I would like to point out, both the most recent family town hall as well as all 3 of the ones for employees, we've had the good fortune to be visited by a local doctor who has been extremely instrumental in responding to the questions particular to both the families and employees' wonderings as it relates to what the potential risks are in the building and for all those interactions. And then throughout the process, I have been in consultation with our protocols and our practices, and it has been very reassuring to have the support from the medical professionals as it relates to our procedures. We have made some adjustments to that. What I've described previously is that we have a very full picture of our whole plan, and now we are sharpening in on those particular zones. So we're sharpening in more completely with remote learning. We're sharpening in more completely with the hybrid model, the schedule, what phase-in looks like, getting down to the dates. And as far as the health and safety, we're making some adjustments. We're changing the mask requirement to require it being either a surgical mask or a cloth mask that covers So we're making some adjustments to what is defined in that regard. No bandanas for students and employees. But we've also had an interest in a really important decision that we made is the concept of physical barriers. So we are supplying all employees with face shields if they choose to use them. And the benefit of a face shield is that it reminds you not to touch your face, because that is one of the biggest risks, is that if, that touching. And so the face shield, although it does also create a barrier that stays with you wherever you move, it is that reminder like, oh wait, I was going to scratch my eye, I shouldn't do that. But I cannot stress enough the importance and the effectiveness of masks, hand washing, and we really started to coalesce around what those training needs are. The CDC has prepared a lot of very effective, short visuals that we will be using. Their media is both animated media as well as the print signage. So we are going fully with the CDC signage, so it's consistent across the building, so the message is the same. We're doing that both in English and in Spanish. And we have, a person whose job it's been to kind of create that map throughout the entire campus to make sure that in both buildings it's very consistent and clear. And Tom, I know, is going to speak later about the items that we've procured in preparation for this. I just want to point out that the phase-in schedule is now posted on the website. And that is, as with all things, this is a plan, and we do recognize that things will change. But so that families could prepare, we wanted to give them what it will look like. And this means when students are going to be coming for in-person. So I want to be very clear that when we open, we're opening in a very small, deliberate manner so that we can understand our protocols for how students move in the building, how we transition, how we arrive at school. So when we begin on September 10th, which is the proposed start date, we're going to be beginning with kindergarten, one half of those selecting in-person for 6th grade, and one half those selecting in-person for 9th grade, which we're estimating will be approximately 35 students in each of the grades in the middle school and high school, and probably around high 30s, low 40s of those who are selecting in-person for kindergarten. We'll then add one grade level at a time at the elementary school. We're going to go through both halves of each of the single grades in the middle school and high school before we add an additional. In the time that students are not in person, we will be providing full remote learning. So there will be a portion of time when the majority of students at the middle school and high school are engaging in the remote model. And as I've shared from the very beginning, our hybrid plan, our in-person schedule, and our remote schedule are identical. So there won't be any switching about what do I do when. So students will be following that schedule. So on the 10th, a person who is in 11th grade will have work and have teacher-facilitated learning occurring if they have a first period class at that first period at 8 o'clock in the morning on that first Thursday, 9 o'clock for second period, 10 o'clock and 11 o'clock, as well as those 2 additional periods in the afternoon. So it'll be a 6-period block schedule. All of this is on the website, but I just wanted you all to know that the design of this will be to support the remote learning of students so that we can gradually bring people in. There is not going to be a day where we're flooding the halls with this massive number. And we're doing that so that we can understand the staffing that we need, where we need them, when we need them, to ensure that these protocols work. We are getting down to the finer details of which restroom facilities will be opened. We want to make sure that they can be monitored so we don't have people hanging out where we can't guarantee distancing. But much of this, as with all it's been in the state, is on education and having everyone do their part to kind of work together. There is not one thing that the school can do to eliminate all things, but if we all work together, and this means the students, the faculty, for the education point, I feel very confident in the design of our work and how thorough we've been at trying to consider all of those elements. And there are still additional things. I've had excellent interactions with all employees, both the non-instructional and from the faculty. They've been working so generously all summer to provide feedback on the plans, to review it, to consider things, not only the operations, but also what's best educationally, which I think is really important to remember, that we have to do this remote learning well. And there are remote learning groups at all 3 schools that are working now to define what that will look like. And I can tell by the level of questions that they're asking to me that they're really concerning themselves with providing enriching experiences for the students, whether they're in person or remote. And I'm just very proud of their work so far. That is the extent of the report. I'm more than happy to answer questions if there are any.
Could I have a quick question? Just for clarification, so the 10th, 11th, and 12th graders, let's say in high school, and the 7th and 8th graders will be reporting to school remotely at 8 a.m. on that Tuesday morning. So they have to sign in, and they will be told what Zoom to go to? Like, how are they going to do that exactly?
So the way that this is the plan as it stands, is that once the device deployment occurs, and they have their access to Canvas, that there will be teacher-facilitated learning. It may be a Zoom link there that they have to check in. It may be that the teacher is saying, what the typical experience for a first day of school would be, I want to get to know you, complete this. So there may be a Google form there, but the teacher would be there to facilitate that. So it may mean give them 15 minutes to do that, then the teacher may share some information about themselves as a way of getting to know you. But that is expected to be within that time frame.
Right, so that 1 hour, they will be accountable, and, attendance will be taken, and the teacher will know if they've checked in, as opposed to
Yeah, so attendance is
checking
taken in the remote model. So when we're fully operational in the hybrid model, attendance is going to be manually recorded during the times that students are scheduled to be in a place at a specific time. So that means the purple students are going to be manually taking attendance on those days that are designated as purple, the gold students on those days, and the remote students for those 2 periods in the afternoon. That's when it's going to be manually recorded. Attendance on fully remote days is going to be based on participation in the work. So that means if they submit the work, they're showing that they were present. So it's not going to be an additional attendance taking on those remote days. It's going to be, I posted this question, this reflection, it will be done that way. So that we have to understand that in remote settings, access to peace, to quiet, to connectivity, all of that varies, so we have to have flexibility there. So there will be flexibility on those remote sessions because we have to have that, but there will be an expectation that work is completed in a timely fashion. So we're thinking of this as weekly modules on that. So once when you're scheduled to be in person, we need to keep track. We need to know that you are where you're scheduled to be. But the other remote learning is going to be a little bit more independent, but the teacher will be facilitating that most directly based on the schedule.
Okay, thanks.
Does that make,
Yeah, that clarifies it.
Have any update on this survey are there any, where are we at on the survey, the parents returning?
So I sent a family intention survey. When I last checked, I think we were just about 780 respondents. Most of the responses after I sent the reminder have been opting for in-person experience with the hybrid model. So I think we are actually just over the 80% mark. I think 80.2 or 80.4 opting for that. I will say, after the town hall last night, a few switched from remote to the hybrid model because they were not clear in the beginning about the 50%. They felt more comfortable knowing at the secondary school, considering the sizes of once you distribute over multiple rooms, there were some families who opted back into that at the secondary level. The numbers, generally speaking, at CLS are a little bit closer to the mid-70s, so there's about 25% at the elementary school. So, having the additional section is going to really enable us to have the appropriate social distancing with that.
Hopefully all the families that have not responded will do that.
So we actually have sent to each of the main offices are actually making phone calls, sending reminders out. We've had some success. I saw the middle school one sent out, and I saw a big increase in that. So we've actually supplied them with everyone who's responded because we do expect and we need 100%. This is not an interest survey. This is actually an intention survey. So it's not like, what do you think about this? Would you share your feedback? It's, we need to know. We are asking them to let us know about their connectivity, their transportation needs, because we will be making adjustments to bus routes. All of those have implications because there are limits to the number of students who could travel on buses. So this is something that I've been really pressing people to get their responses. And we recognize people will change their mind and we can accommodate that, but we just need communication. So we're going to continue to keep track of that.
Right, we can accommodate, but not at the last minute. Buses, for instance, right, they're only going to
That's
have one
correct.
child per seat unless they're family, so an extra few people bus route.
That's correct. Similarly, moving from a remote choice to an in-person choice, although we can accommodate that, we can't accommodate that in an instant. There's going to have to be communication because it has to be done thoughtfully. The placement into the cohort or the placement, into this, we have to be prepared. So we are relying heavily on communication. So there will be additional information from me for family. There's a lot of elements that families need to prepare for. So we're going to start rolling that out. So just recently, just actually today, I had shared with employees the consideration for travel to restricted states and what implication that would have. The same would apply to families and students. Students need to know, families need to know the implications of any potential travel to restricted states. So that is all, there's a lot of information that's going to be coming out. And we are going to have to be making phone calls because this is something that it's a need to know so that we can be best prepared.
Procedure, is it still the same in the morning for temperature taking and the filling out form?
The CDC recommends, if a school is going to do that, the CDC actually, if you go to the CDC site, they recommend not doing that, but we are doing screening at home. So you will receive families will receive a daily reminder to do the health screening. The doctors will tell you it's very important that you understand your own children, your own children's health. You understand if they have seasonal allergies. When is this an anomaly? When is it different? And it's really, that's what I say about people doing their part. There are some social and emotional consequences to those health screening surveys. They can create a lot of anxiety, particularly if they're done on campus, which is against all recommendation. Nobody recommends that because you're actually saying something's going to beep or you're going to call a kid's name out for something. It can have some pretty significant consequences. And there already is tremendous anxiety around that. And we are following a much more stringent approach than what the CDC even recommends. But it's going to rely on us communicating with families about how important it is just to do a wellness check every day, with your child before sending that. Staff will be expected to complete a daily health screening. So by signing in, they're affirming a response to all of that. But a lot of this relies on us cooperating and communicating throughout. Because schools are not permitted to do medical testing unless you have trained personnel to conduct those tests.
I don't have any other questions. I think it's important. No, Mark, go ahead.
Yeah, so Albert, you mentioned that we're adding sections at the elementary school. I think we all know how that's being accomplished, but maybe for the benefit of people who are in attendance or maybe watching, could you explain how we're accomplishing that?
Absolutely. So at the elementary school, we are reassigning faculty members who were in other areas. For example, the STEM teacher is now becoming a classroom teacher. An AIS teacher who was AIS reading is now classroom, taking on the classroom. So we're a reassignment of responsibilities with the exception of one section. So there's a temporary 1-year appointment for one teacher to accommodate the additional section. And that gets the numbers into a level that even if all students were to opt for in-person, we can safely accommodate that with the footage in the room. But we did a reassignment of employees from other duties that they were already doing in the school to become classroom teachers.
It's just going to be important for our families to be patient. This is nothing we've done before. They're going to need to do their part, to go to the website, read the information, know what to expect, and I guess say again, patient.
Yes, there will be bumps. There will be technology glitches. Zoom is going to crash on September 10th. We will figure that all out. We are committed to figuring it out, and we have been faced with other challenges, and we will do that. I just want you all to know, and I want the board to know, we did have Johnson Controls come in to examine all of the louvers to make sure that the ventilation is working. We're doubling the amount of outside air. I mean, we've really turned over every stone to make sure that we are in the best possible position to provide the highest quality education for the kids.
We have an opportunity now for public comment. Okay. Seeing none, we're going to move on to reports and discussion. Our first report is the 2020-21 tax levy and tax rate overview.
If you would return to your yellow section that says reports and discussion, that should be your next orange, colorblind now too. I would like to just kind of go over the numbers because this is, I also gave you an extra copy here at your desk if you want to just go from your copy. But one of the things I usually do is go through what are the changes that came up with our tax levy, because our tax rate we projected to go up 2.93% as a part of the budget process, but when everything got done, we actually have a negative 6.3% decrease in our tax rate. Well, how can you do that? So I'll show you. So let's turn it over to the next page because it's a multiple scenario. And the first thing you're looking at is percentage change due to equalization rate. As you see, Rhinebeck has gone from 87% to 100%, which is a 15% increase, okay? So this actually works in the reverse of it. So the lower the equalization rate, it's a calculation that actually if it's below 100, your values are actually higher than what is assessed. And that was the issue that Rhinebeck had a few years ago where the state came in and said the equalization rate needed to go down because the homes were not assessed at 100%. So the town went through a whole process of reassessing all properties in the town and village of Rhinebeck, and this is now going to be the first result of this. So we see that the equalization rate has gone up to 100% in Rhinebeck. And we see Clinton, Red Hook, and Stanford are still at 100%, but we have two other properties, Hyde Park, which went from 55% to 52%, and you see a negative 5.45. That means the value of their houses went up over 5% over the past year. And the same thing with the town of Milan. They went from 100% to 97%. So that means the value of their homes went up 3%, and this is being accounted for by the state because the town is not accounting for it. Okay? So equalization rates play into it. So if we turn over to the next page, though, this is the significant page, but we'll see the end result. So percentage change due to assessments, and typically these are new homes that are built, additions put on, things of that nature is really where you see the increases typically. But the town of Rhinebeck did an actual reassessment. And when they reassessed their properties, it added 28% to the value of the town. So they're picking up a much larger share than in previous years, and we'll go through all that. But as you see overall, that is a huge change. So the assessments in the town of Rhinebeck got up 28%, and okay, 1% here, 2%, less than 1%, and all the other ones, but overall, our assessments go up 22%. So that's why we're seeing a tax rate that's being driven lower, is because there's more property value, not more properties, but more property value to tax. So now this gets spread out a little bit differently. And now I want you to go to this picture right here, which is the big spreadsheet on the side, sideways, because this has the effect of both the equalization rate and the assessments. And this is what this spreadsheet does. It takes the new assessments by the new equalization rates and gives us the new full value. And you see the value of our town went from 1.952 billion. That's the 1920 full value assessment. It's the third column in from coming in from the left to the right. $1.952 billion was the value of this school district's properties last year. It has increased to $2.144 million, which is almost a 10% increase to the total value of our school district taxable values. So you have an overall value of going up almost 10%, and looking at a tax increase of 2.93%, you net it out and you come up with a negative 6.3 is what it comes down to. So what you're doing tonight, and you'll notice that every single town or village within the school district has decreased from anywhere from just a little under 1% in Hyde Park to Rhinebeck. Actually, the town of Rhinebeck has a decrease of 18.5%. But their assessments went up individually, so we couldn't tell you what each individual property did. We just know the overall impact of that new reassessment. So, so you're seeing a tax rate that's driven lower, but we're still increased. Still, our taxes went up overall. Our levy went up 2.93%, but the tax rate went down overall 6.3%. But that is a lot to do with the reassessment that has occurred. How it affects every individual taxpayer is hard to tell. But for the towns of Clinton, Milan, Red Hook, and Stanford, they're all seeing, Milan had an adjustment for equalization, but they're seeing a true 6.3% decrease in their tax bills. And those 4 towns over the past 3 years have all seen decreases every single year because Rhinebeck was picking up a bigger portion. And once again, they're going to pick up a bigger portion. When I first started doing this, and if you go back to this one page here, percent full value, it's right dead in the center of this spreadsheet here. And it's showing Rhinebeck now at 80%. So the town and village of Rhinebeck are paying 80% of our taxes, our tax levy. When I first started here, it was about 73, 74%. So we're definitely seeing a rise to the town of Rhinebeck, but it comes at the expense of town of Rhinebeck, but the other towns see the effects of it by that decrease. And there's nothing we can do about those things. That's just purely the tax assessors, jobs to do. We only take the numbers in and put the calculations to it. But it does have an effect on tax bills. A lot of people will be very happy when they open up their tax bills this time around, but some of them are going to be upset. So I just want you to know this is outside of the school district's hands. This is just a fact of the revaluation. And like a lot of people have told me, well, their taxes were lower for a long time, but now they're where they're supposed to be. So, there's a lot of, and I have to tell you this, I have never had so many tax certiorari sitting in front of me. That's why we're increasing the tax certiorari reserve accounts to see what potentially may come out of these, the grievances or when they get to the courts to try to fight these. And we'll see how successful they are or not successful. But that can play out to over another year or two, as far as that's concerned. That isn't something that gets settled overnight. So, any questions about the tax levy and how it was computed? Yes?
I guess, and I'm sorry, I didn't think to ask that.
There's too many variables, and you got to know what has happened to your neighbors. Because you could find in the town of Rhinebeck, you could have a property go up 10% in value, okay, but their tax bill still went down because their neighbors went up 20%. So it's really hard to tell. It's really a property by property discussion. I can tell you right now, the area that got hit the hardest is along the river. The value of those homes and property those are where I'm getting the tax certiorari's from, along the river especially. And we'll just have to see where it all plays out. And there'll be more to come. I don't know how this is going to affect our biggest number when it comes to our combined, or to our state aid, which is called the combined wealth ratio. This will affect our state aid in future years because we saw that the increase to the overall value of our properties went up 10%. Okay, so we're now 10% richer in the state aid world. So that usually increases our combined wealth ratio, which reduces state aid coming back to us. I wouldn't say it's going to be a huge impact. It's not going to be like we're losing hundreds of thousands of dollars. That's not the case. But it is going to have a bit of an impact. And it will be a couple years down the road. There are property values and income values are a couple years behind. So it will be a year or two before we see that impact.
Just regardless of how much richer we are, the school district is still still levying the same amount of taxes.
That's correct. We're not increasing the amount we're planning to at all. In fact, we're one of the few school districts in this county that has seen continual tax levy or tax growth, meaning new properties being built, new additions put on. Very few other school districts can say that since the tax cap has been in place, that they've continually seen tax assessment growth of new properties and additions. This isn't renovations or anything like that. This is actually in that tax calculation and during the budget season is generated by new properties, not by, like this. This is not going to increase our ability to raise taxes for the tax cap. That doesn't get factored into it. It's actually only new additions in new homes. That's the only, or businesses, new property that's built. That's the only thing that gets added to the tax cap, not changes to the assessment rolls, because then towns could do whatever they needed to do to drive, income towards us. But that isn't how it's working. It's not how it works.
Move on to the report on COVID-19 related procurement.
So I'm going to introduce this, and then Tom is going to talk a little bit more particular about what we have already gone through the procurement process on. It's very important to recognize, and I know that if you've driven around, you've seen it, that in a normal year, this summer was going to be a challenge for the school district simply because of the project, and there's significant work being done. CLS now, if you look at all of, there's a lot of earth overturned, and we're talking 2 weeks out before we're scheduled to open. So that has been, something that we have a lot of material things that are going into buildings, but we are still making sure that the project is moving. We want to make sure that the workers have the space to do that. So there are many things that we have in procurement that is waiting for installation for the project to get further down the road. Particularly you've seen in this building, if you've gone through the hallways, the lockers are there, the trim is just going back up. There's a lot of work still on the walls. But I will say the work that's been done is remarkable. The middle school gym looks like a brand new facility now that they painted it. It's been really incredible. So Tom's going to take it over in terms of what we have purchased related to COVID-related expenditures. I will say much of this is focused on operations and health and safety. In addition to that, we've made significant investment in looking at how technology can be an asset. So, for example, K-12 music, looking at apps to support the learning of our students who are engaging in music, because an ensemble is not going to happen in this environment. You're not going to have a bunch of students in a room singing, but there are some very effective apps. So I think that in addition to all of our operations side, there's been also allocation for making the experience of our students in both, art, music, and those other things that are more difficult, phys ed, to be done in a remote setting.
Good. So we've been on the procurement bandwagon for more than a few weeks now, and we've been very successful about being able to order things. So we've ordered face masks for adults and kids and students. We have them already in place. We have the hand sanitizer stations and hand sanitizer. The stations haven't been put on walls in different places, and that until our workers are out of here so that they can do that. But we got freestanding stations going to be placed around here, so those have been all ordered and received. Wipes, we've gotten a huge shipment of wipes. We currently are working with 2 outfits who are creating physical barriers for the desk and for various teachers. Those have all been ordered, sized, and they're all ready to be shipped in here. We're just waiting to clear things out so we can get them back in. Face shields have been ordered. They will be here on time. All the nursing requests have been put in, and we have only one back order that we know of, and it's for 1 thermometer. So we have plenty of other thermometers, but right now only 1 is back ordered, or we have them all. Signage has been ordered, and for not only the walls but the floors and that. So we're waiting for the final cleanup to be done so we can, put them on the floors and walls where we need it. Gloves have been ordered. Butcher block paper for on top of desktops as another way to, instead of wiping everything down, we have another method. If we can't get to everybody and wipe everything down, we'll have butcher block paper to put over the top of desk. The buses are all ready, both bus companies. MAT, Total Transportation, continues to be our provider. They won the bid, and BOCES awarded that award about 2 weeks ago. Defile Transportation is all ready and to go. We just have to work out who's all coming and who needs rides and who doesn't, but we're much, much further along than I thought we'd be at this time, and it looks really good as far as the number of kids on any bus at any one time. They're all under what we even set as our maximum limit, so we're not even have to, right now, currently adjust anything. We are, just to spread it out better, so that now this route's picking up 15 kids, but this kid's only 5. Oh, no, we're going to get 5 over to you, so you're both picking up 10. So we're working very much hard on that one. The other thing that we're currently in the process, and that is tents around both buildings. For just like nurses' stations to be able to come through, that type of a thing, just areas in which, they can come through on a socially distanced, coming through into the building, plus tents that we're going to be setting up for classrooms, for outside, and for eating lunches. So we're going to be putting tents around this building. What we're trying to figure out now is actually where to place them, just because there's a lot of areas disturbed out there that are going to get reseeded, and we don't want to put tents on top of them. So that's all getting ready and put in place. So we're well on our way to being ready to open up. Now, the next couple of weeks are going to be very busy. I'm not going to lie to you. There's going to be a lot of movement because we've got to get the final cleanup and the contractors out, and then everything is ready there. We just got to get it now in place. And we have plenty of people who are going to be helping out and doing that.
Thanks, Tom. That's a lot of supplies and materials and items that we don't normally purchase. So that's additional expenses for the district.
Not at all.
The butcher block, too, I think.
Yeah, no, it was a great idea. I can't remember where it came from, but I know.
It came from a discussion with the Lower Hudson School superintendents, and it's a really interesting solution. So each student would come in, they basically have their own butcher block, that's theirs. And then, after that class is done, they get to recycle that one, or if they want to take theirs with them. So we're supplying them with their own protective shield, which that physical barrier instills a lot more confidence for students. Because if you just tell someone, oh, I cleaned your desk, I think students like to know that it's theirs. So I think that's going to be a really interesting approach. And I think as with all of this is new. We'll see how that works with our students and the training of that, and developing those routines. But I think it's a really nice approach, particularly with the secondary students.
Tom, did I hear you right that you're not anticipating having to get any additional bus routes at this time with the numbers we have?
No additional ones. No additional ones. We don't need any additional busing. No, not at all. not at all. No, we're good.
The nurses' tents, not doing nurses.
No, but they'd be
So-
there.
Yeah,
Go ahead. Go
So we, what we will be offering is we'll be offering screening on site. So we're gonna expect families to do their daily wellness check. We will, however, let students know that if you weren't screened and would like to be screened, we have the capability to do that. We don't want someone coming into the building if they somehow forgot, if they have a routine. So we are going to be providing that. We want that outside of the building upon arrival so that a student can feel that sense of like, I can get my screening. And we're really trying to develop that culture of we want to be screened, and so we're going to have that. So we want that to be done outside. And we have, I think, 2 people identified at each campus.
At each right.
Upon arrival to be able to perform any of those wellness checks there. And so we want to set that up outside. So we want to protect them from the elements and keep it in a way that is not like stigmatizing, but providing the service.
Popular in elementary school.
Tom, it's very, very reassuring what you guys have thought through and purchased already. Can you talk a little bit more about the physical barriers? Where are those going to be? And
The physical barriers that were referenced in this is primarily for office employees who are in a place that sees a lot of people from a lot of areas. So that's what the primary function of the physical barriers are. There are some teachers, as an accommodation, that we are looking at additional physical barriers. I will say, as particularly after speaking to the doctors, I want to follow back up with that because the face shield provides that, and it's also mobile with you, and it doesn't require you to touch it. It's one less touched surface that you have to physically move. There are mobile physical barriers that I know that there is an interest in a little bit, but by the district guaranteeing face shields for employees, that may be a preferred option for those, so we're going to circle back around that. But for any office employee who is in a place that is filtered by many, we are providing a physical clear barrier that's fit to their desk so that they can have that protection.
Yep, that's exactly it.
So I'm assuming that we're going to get more people driving their kids to school potentially, or do you think it'll be less because it's not as many kids coming in?
Oh.
And what kind of traffic jam?
Well,
or
that's a
need
good,
will be
that's a
for
good
that?
question. Overall, I'm looking like, yeah, there's a lot more kids going to be driven in. But at this campus, it's only half of them at a time. So that will definitely help out in the overall. So you're right, it probably will not have a big impact. I think the bigger impact is going to be over at the elementary building because there already is a significant number of cars that go there. And since we're open every day there, I can see, or 100, well, maybe 75% of attendance, but that's going to be more the issue as chancellor. They have been talking with their administration over there. They're going to look to see if they can get like 2 lines of cars going to unload 2 cars at a time as opposed to 1 because it just creates a backup onto Knollwood and buses can't get in then and it just creates a whole domino effect.
we used to have that monitor that would open up the doors so they wouldn't just be 1 at a time. It was 4 kids getting out at the same time, which made the line move a lot
That's a good
faster.
suggestion too. I was at another school district, that's exactly what we did. We opened up the door for each of the kids, helped them get out of the car, especially the little ones, because sometimes it could take them a minute to get out of it, unlock them, get them out of the car, and that is like, we'll help you along the way.
I will say, I think that another part of the community education piece will be on that patient's part because with social distancing, it will take longer to do everything because we are going to be creating space, so there is going to be some of that. I think there are very efficient ways to get people out, but I think particularly in the beginning as we're doing this, it's going to be very deliberate and slow. So I'm hoping that as we phase in 1 grade level at a time, we'll start to see when our capacity is what it is and then make adjustments. I think with all of this, it's going to be adjusting as we go, and that's why that phase in is super critical that we do it slowly.
That's something maybe our SROs could help with.
Yeah, that's actually one of the things I was going to do next week is to reach out to Pete Dunn and his staff to see, what help the SROs can provide. And also the other thing too is I want to get a sense of, from him as to what are the best ways to navigate from the village to Chancellor and to this school? Where are the best places to cross? Those type of things, so that maybe if it becomes an issue, a school district cannot hire crossing guards. That's a reflection on the town or village. I don't know how many more kids will be walking versus how many kids are going to get dropped off by their parents. So don't know who's walking versus who's being dropped off yet. And like Albert was saying, slowly ramping it up, a grade level at a time so we can build our capacity to, I know it's going to ramp up a lot quicker at Chancellor than in this building, but, we have to be ready to be prepared to make adjustments as we go.
Just have to watch it to make sure we're
Yep.
good neighbors to the people that live right around the school and.
So you should email that guy on Knollwood and warn him.
Especially
Tell them
right
to be
next to
patient.
the school.
Okay, any other questions for Todd?
Albert, can you reiterate, are there going to be scheduled times where parents can walk through prior to the start of school just to see the setup for their school, their building?
That, let me get back, I will get back to the board with that fully. I will say that I know me personally, I'm going to create a multimedia version of that to kind of give you the inside look. My heart right now says yes, of course, but I do want to be sensitive to the fact that there's limited time and limited space and to do all of that. I think that in particular, there are those transition years that I know the building administrators are looking at what to do for the 6th graders, the 9th graders, the K students. I know K is having orientation starting tomorrow with an in-person. They're going to be meeting their teachers. So I know there's extra sensitivity for the transition points. So I think that would get priority as it relates to that.
Albert, I know you mentioned you met recently with the mayor.
Yeah,
and,
he knocked on my window while I was working in my office late at night, and it scared me.
So this may get a little bit to what you were talking about with the SROs, but did he indicate a willingness to lend any resources to the extent that might be appropriate?
We didn't discuss resources in particular. I'm on a meeting with him tomorrow. He was extremely welcoming and just welcoming me to the community and reiterating the partnership of the schools with him. I think he said he lives in the backyard of the school and he can oversee it from his house. So we can discuss further, I think particularly as it relates to some of the traffic related, but I know he's fully committed to seeing this, and I know that he's very much on board with what we're planning. He's been paying close attention to all of that, and it just had a very warm interaction,
Right,
but we
so-
didn't get into the nitty gritty.
Right, so more of a welcoming
Right,
discussion.
exactly.
Right. I just know there's often a police car that sits near the high school in the morning, maybe that. A traffic hazard.
Yeah, and actually, now that Matt mentioned that, I will say, generally speaking, we're analyzing our allocation of human resources as it relates to operations and saying there will be more students at CLS at any one time than in this campus because of the 50% reduction. So there may need to be some reallocation of where people are spending their hours to be where the kids are. Similar to that point about in the morning arrival as well. We are having quite a substantial staggered arrival and dismissal, so we may actually have the capacity to be able to do both because there's such a delay between the arrival of this campus to that campus, and then same with the dismissal. So it may work out. In some ways, minimizing the traffic all at the same time within that same 35 minutes, I think it used to be.
Yeah, it can get very crowded here in the morning between the two campuses. So it definitely is going to be a lot easier because of that separation of time at 8 o'clock start and a 10:30 start.
One of the guiding principles for the reopening has always been prioritizing the in-person learning for our K-5 students. That's been a focus from July 1st. And that comes with it the need to support that with the appropriate allocation of the human side as well.
What is the status of lunches going forward with us open? Since this started, we've been providing meals to families that need them. What happens when school opens on the 10th? I mean, we have remote families. What happens then?
Okay, so remote families can still receive meals here all the time. That's not an issue. But what is changing is, it is going back to the paid, free, and reduced. So those students, during this time, since this whole pandemic started, everything has been free, and we've been reimbursed by the state and federal for that. But starting on September 10th, when we do start actually in-person school, we are then going to, and we're forced to, and we have to go back to the free, paid, and reduced model. So what will occur is, it's multifaceted. I had a long discussion with Larry Anthony this afternoon, and we've been discussing it the whole time, about the logistics of it all. So first you have the students that are here in person, okay? So we'll be providing lunch and breakfast, okay? And for our remote learners who are here on Monday and Tuesday, but then are going home Tuesday afternoon, they will, if they want to, they can have up to 3 breakfasts and 3 lunches when they leave for Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. And likewise, when the second cohort comes in for the Thursday, Friday, I'm talking about the secondary schools, and then on Friday, they would, if they wanted it, they would have breakfast for Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, and lunch. But you have to pay for it if you are a paid person. Free and reduced, again, once again, this year reduced is free. They don't owe the quarter. The state is picking up that quarter, so reduced is actually still free. So, so we will be providing that. But as far as for the people who are on remote learning, we haven't figured out exactly which days we are. Right now, we do it on Mondays and Thursdays for the remote currently right now. We're not sure if we want to do it every day, or because we're planning to do it out of this campus, okay? And not use CLS because, you know, 10 o'clock to, it's just not good over here. Over here, between 9 o'clock and 11 o'clock, we haven't decided exact times, there should be no traffic in and out of here, so it should be very easy to continue using the student loop to provide those meals, and we'll have an access station there for the cashier to record those lunches and breakfasts. But they are unitized, so they're unitized, meaning nobody's going to be walking through the lunch line, period. That would create a contact tracing nightmare. So we've just said, no way, we're delivering all meals to classroom or to a place, so that people will not be going through the classroom or through the lunch line at all. So you're only going to be able to get potentially 1 of 3 meals. For lunch, there's a hot meal, there's a sandwich, and a salad. So you get to choose 1 of those 3. It's already prepackaged. You can't come in and say, oh, I just want a bag of pretzels. No. There's no cash sales and that type. It's either you're getting the lunch or you're not. So there's not going to be, just walk up and I want an ice cream. No, that's not happening this year. Or at least until further notice. But we'll be sending out all this information as soon as we knock down all the little details about it. We're trying to look at the timing between the campuses and what's right, what's a good time to be here and to have the least impact on the surroundings.
And to be honest, the laws around food service in particular, they come very late, similar to all the following. It's like when it's expiring, like at 11:55 that night, so we may be in a situation where it is funded longer. They just increased it for an additional week. There was a missing week of service, and so that they just increased that little gap to get us up to the first day of school. So this could all change, nothing to do with our planning, but you know, we're learning it like as everyone learns it. It's like spoken at a state level, and then we scramble to kind of adjust to that. Because we were fully expecting our service to end earlier, but now it's continuing.
Correct.
We're continuing through because they extended the legislation to cover that.
How many, roughly, and I'm sure you don't have the exact figure, but roughly how many of our students, what percentage is getting free and reduced lunch right now?
Our free and reduced number is 20%, right at 20%. Point below, point up, somewhere in the 20, but right around 20% of our students. Not sure how that's going to change. I have not, on Monday, I'll be pulling down the latest. So for those parents who have now been unemployed or have gotten SNAP benefits, so I can see that percentage going up higher for this coming year. But the past couple of years have been right around 20. So, but I do think that number will be going up.
Really procurement, but is the daycare still going to be provided?
Yeah, before and after care will still be provided. I think the before is 7:30 to 10:30, and after care is 3:30 till 6, through Northern Dutchess, Ramapo.
Okay, that's good.
Yes, and also Camp Ramapo, they put an application in for that to become a daycare site. So it is quite possible that that will be another area. We may be busing out to there because it being a daycare site within our boundaries, we may be doing a trip up to there. No additional transportation, just whatever bus is going in that direction, we'll go to Camp Ramapo and pick up and drop off kids from that location.
Thank you both. You've been doing a great job. This is a lot. All right, move on to comments. Any good news?
I wanted to say I'm getting a lot of really good feedback from community members about the town halls that have been going on and just the general communication that's happening between the district and parents in the community. So making the best of a really tough situation.
I just want to piggyback on that. I think it's really great that we have about 80% of our families that are willing to, trust us to send their children to school this year. So I'm really happy with those numbers, and, hopefully maybe down the road it'll maybe increase, but 80% seems like a really good number.
Moving on to old business. So I sent out today the new committee assignments, so just double check them and make sure that I got your request right and that I put everybody in the right place, but we should go to start our new committees.
Lots to do.
Oh, yes. Our board self-evaluation, we still have a couple board members that didn't finish their self-evaluation. So I'm going to ask that you finish it by Friday. Okay, and everybody that got it done, thank you. All right. Have another opportunity for public comment.
You're incredibly difficult to understand, some of you. Tom, you were fine. You were clear. You were articulate. Mark, you sounded like you're in a box.
Sorry.
In the back of the garage. Kind of ditto. If you could, I realize what you're up against, but the audience still, under the Public Officers State Open Meetings Law, is entitled to be able to understand what is being discussed. And so if you have to pull down your mask to speak, if you need to put a little microphone up underneath the mask, whatever you have to do, if you don't mind, it could be improved somewhat. Thank you.
We'll work on it. How did I do? Could you hear me?
I didn't understand the beginning of what you said. End of that, yes. So I understand what we're up against.
Okay. Thank you. Any other public comment? Any other? Okay, we're going to move on to action items. Like to remove anything from the consent agenda? Motion upon the recommendation of the superintendent of schools to approve the following consent items.
So moved.
Second.
Favor? Passes. Motion upon the recommendation of the superintendent of schools to adopt the resolution to confirm tax rolls and authorize the tax levy for the 2020-21 school year. See complete resolution attached.
So moved.
Second.
Favor? Passes. Motion upon the recommendation of the superintendent of schools to issue the tax warrant to the school tax collector to collect taxes in the total sum of $30,735,859, exclusive of STAR reimbursements. The collection period begins September 2nd, 2020, and ends on November 2nd, 2020. Original warrant will be brought to the meeting. Oh, sorry.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Passes. Okay, motion upon the recommendation of the superintendent of schools to approve the appointment of Tracy Austria as a special education teacher assigned to provide special education homebound instruction effective September 9th, 2020, at an hourly rate of $60.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor? The motion passes. Motion upon the recommendation of the superintendent of schools to approve the appointment of Allison Burton as a special education teacher assigned to provide special education home community-based services for the 2020-2021 school year effective September 9th, 2020, at an hourly rate of $60.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? That motion passes. Motion upon the recommendation of the superintendent of schools to approve the appointment of Leanne Nichols as a teacher aide assigned to provide support for a special education student attending a specialized program in an out-of-district placement for the 2020-2021 school year, effective September 9th, 2020, at a salary of Step 2, $23,538, in accordance with the Annie's salary schedule.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. All those in favor? Motion upon the recommendation of the superintendent of schools to approve the probationary civil service appointment of Laura K. Baird to the position of custodial worker at 8.0 hours per diem with a 26-week probationary period effective August 11th, 2020, at a salary of Step 2, $37,372 prorated, and in accordance with the Annie's salary schedule for 2020-21. This hiring replaces the vacancy created by the retirement of Barbara Rockefeller.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Passes. Motion upon the recommendation of the superintendent of schools to approve the probationary civil service appointment of Noelle Hendricks to the position of custodial worker at 8 hours per diem with a 26-week probationary period effective August 24th, 2020, at a salary of Step 2, $37,372 prorated, and in accordance with the Annie's salary schedule for the 2020-21. This hiring fills the vacancy created by the retirement of Kevin Kuhn.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor? The motion passes. Motion upon the recommendation of the superintendent of schools to hereby reappoint Christine Natoli to the office of full-time 1.0 FTE district treasurer with additional duties effective July 1st, 2020, at an annual salary of $125,000. Be it resolved that the board president and superintendent of schools are authorized to sign the terms and conditions of employment between the Rhinebeck Central School District and the district treasurer as presented to the Board of Education.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Upon the recommendation of the superintendent of schools to approve the 4-year probationary appointment of Jamie Larson to the position of special education teacher assigned to the Bulkley Middle School effective September 4th, 2020, in the tenure area of special education general at a salary of Step 1 MA plus 22, $64,495, in accordance with the RTA salary schedule for the 2020-21.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All those. That motion passes. Motion upon the recommendation of the superintendent of schools to accept the resignation of Christine Martin from the position of aide effective September 3rd, 2020, pending her recommended appointment to the position of teaching assistant for a 4-year probationary period assigned to Bulkley Middle School effective September 4th, 2020, in the tenure area of teaching assistant, at a salary of step 14, BA, $41,054, in accordance with the 2020-2021 RTA salary schedule.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor? Okay. Motion upon the recommendation of the superintendent of schools to approve the appointment of Monica Zimmers to the part-time .4 position of mathematics teacher assigned to Rhinebeck High School effective September 4th, 2020, at a salary of step 5, MA plus 6, $71,247, prorated in accordance with the 2020-21 RTA salary schedule.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor? Motion upon the recommendation of the superintendent of schools to approve the request from Kim Sneed for a leave of absence from her position as a teaching assistant effective on September 3rd, 2020, pending her appointment as a one-year probationary teacher effective September 4th, 2020, at a salary of step 6, MA plus 11, $73,704, in accordance with the 2020-2021 RTA salary schedule.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor? Motion passes. Whereas the Board of Education has previously established an employee benefit accrued liability reserve fund pursuant to the provisions of Section 6P of the General Municipal Law for the purpose of paying the cost of certain employee benefits known and wishes to provide additional funding in said reserve fund. Therefore, be it resolved that the Board hereby authorize and directs the Assistant Superintendent for Support Services to transfer funds from unappropriated unassigned fund balance for the 2019-20 school year in the amount of up to $600,000 to the EBALR reserve fund, with the exact amount to be transferred to the EBALR reserve fund to be determined prior to the tax levy.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Whereas the Board of Education has previously established a reserve for the purpose of paying the cost of reimbursements to the State Unemployment Insurance Fund for payments made to claimants, known as the Unemployment Insurance Reserve Fund, and wishes to increase funding in said reserve fund, therefore be it resolved that the Board hereby authorizes and directs the Assistant Superintendent for Support Services to transfer funds from unappropriated unassigned fund balance for the 2019-20 school year in the amount of up to $100,000 to the Unemployment Insurance Reserve Fund, with the exact amount to be transferred to the Unemployment Insurance Reserve Fund to be determined prior to the tax levy.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Passes. Whereas the Board previously established a reserve fund pursuant to Section 3651(1)(a) and 3(a) of the Education Law to pay judgments and claims in tax certiorari proceedings known as the Tax Certiorari Reserve Fund. And whereas the Board wishes to fund said reserve fund in an amount sufficient to meet anticipated judgments and claims arising out of current outstanding tax certiorari proceedings. Therefore, be it resolved that the Board hereby establishes a reserve fund balance in the amount of $467,187 in the Tax Certiorari Reserve Fund for the payment of judgments and claims in pending tax certiorari proceedings, appropriates the sum of $300,000 for such purpose from unassigned fund balance in the general fund for 2019-2020, and authorizes the transfer of such monies from the general fund to the Tax Certiorari Reserve Fund.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? The motion passes. Be it resolved that the Rhinebeck Central School District Board of Education has developed a technology plan and received SED approval of the technology plan, developed a Smart Schools Bond Investment Plan, Phase 2, has advertised on the district website for 30 days, and has held a public hearing on this date, August 25th, 2020. And be it further resolved that the Rhinebeck Board of Education hereby authorizes the superintendent of schools or his designee to submit the Rhinebeck Central School District Smart Schools Bond Act Investment Plan Phase 2 in the amount of $193,918 to the New York State Education Department for review and approval.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Passes. And motion upon the recommendation of the superintendent of schools to accept a donation of 2 boxes of hand sanitizer, a total of 96 12-ounce bottles valued at $336 from Nicole North to be distributed to CLS and BMS.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? We'd like to thank Nicole North for that generous donation. All those in favor? Motion passes. And motion to move into executive session for the purpose of discussing matters, do we just do the one that we're
That's
doing?
this
or
one. That's
Just the whole, it's still the whole thing, okay. Purpose of discussing matters leading to the appointment, employment, promotion, demotion, discipline, suspension, dismissal, or removal of a particular person or corporation.
So moved?
Second.
All those in favor? Okay, we'll move into executive session.